Welcome to the update. I'm Tiffany.
I'm Daniel.
And I'm Jai.
We are your next generation news network covering all of the craziness happening around the world, getting inspiration and all the good feels from art, and of course we've got the ever so informative This Day in History, and then, you got it, it's all about AZ. It's good to have you all back. Hope you enjoyed the weekend. I know I sure did with that beautiful weather outside. Checked out a couple championship flag football games, and you can catch that recap on the Varsity Squad show on our on-demand playlist at hyfntv.com. Now, it's time for the part we go all around the world, check out what's going on. It's the Haps with the Maps. In Europe, energy consumption has reduced quite effectively and significantly following the loss of 120 million tons of Russian gas per year. And a lot of this reduction has been achieved by switching off, lights and ACs. And Europe is currently and desperately searching for alternatives to the Russian gas. Now Shell, who is a British-based, and France's Total Energies have taken stakes in the North Field South project, which is based in Qatar. This area is also the world's biggest proven gas reserves, and if successful, the project will increase Qatar's LNG or liquefied natural gas by 50%, which will equal about 127 million tons per year by the year 2027. Talk about a huge increase. We know that the pressure is on for European economies for sure, especially for this coming winter. Now, many areas and countries in and around Europe are all feeling their share of discontent by their citizens. For instance, the British railway staff and German pilots held strikes to push for better pay as prices rose. Over in Czechoslovakia, there were demonstrations showing frustration with how the government is handling the energy crisis. And in France, pay increases were demanded due to the rising cost of inflation. And the same was true over in Romania. As you can imagine, they are all looking to their presidents for answers, and that's probably going to put leaders under fire to make massive moves. Just as in the US, Europeans are seeing all products increasing, from food, gas, electricity, and it may be the same trend for the next year. Be sure to keep tuned into the update, your source for reliable, unbiased next generation news. And Jai's up next with more around the world.
Thank you, Tiff. So now, starting off in Iraq, you may remember the group called ISIS. No, it's not a cool band. Rather, they are a jihadist militant group and terrorist organization formed back in 1999. ISIS stands for the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, and have recently been attributed to the attacks in northern and western Iraq, and in regaining activity as an effort to gather the rest of their members. Now, while ISIS has had lots and lots of power, it continues to pose a danger in this area where it still has major strength. The northern cities between Salah ad-Din, Kirkuk, and Man Mountains. In fact, authorities just discovered an ISIS army factory, so ISIS is nowhere near its prior numbers and strength, but it will be monitored closely. Moving over to Iran. Protests are happening everywhere. Still, you may remember we talked about the fire that broke out in Evans Prison, where most political protesters are held. Well, Iran's government just released footage, and it's not appearing as authorities stated. For instance, the Iranian government has stated there were inmates trying to escape, and that they had set a workshop on fire. However, new video release shows confused inmates trying to be what appears to be getting out of harm's way. Who knows what the truth is, as far as others revolting against the authorities. An anonymous group, Nope, no, the anonymous, but another group of hackers calling themselves Black Reward just leaked 50 gigabytes of internal emails, contracts, and construction plans related to Iran's Russian-backed nuclear power plant in Bushehr and shared the files on its Telegram channel. It's still being determined whether the breached system contained classified material. In an anonymous post, the group stated, "Unlike Westerners, we do not flirt with criminal mutants." Mullahs. Protests are also taking place at schools and universities, with teachers holding up signs for women's rights, and classes were not held due to sit-ins. This is one of the biggest protests the Iranian government has faced in a very, very long time. Let's see if they listen this time. There's such a thing as power in numbers. Daniel's up next, taking us over to Africa.
Thank you, Jai. Now, thankfully today, we are not reporting on any coups. Instead, we're letting you know about the positive development in Africa. Big tech giants like Microsoft, Visa, Google, and Amazon have been searching for new talent in countries in Africa. They are looking for developers, and for good reason. Last year alone, they found 716,000, which is almost 4% since 2020. Offers can include relocations to their hubs around the US and Europe. Isn't it crazy to think how we can complain and complain about issues here in the US? Meanwhile, it would be a dream realized for those not born here. Awesome job to those who are realizing their potential. And if you find yourself stuck in a negative or complaining mode, take a moment to be grateful for everything around you. Your lungs, your heart, clean drinking water, electricity, a bed. I mean, we could go on forever. There's plenty. And the people around the world would die to have the same. Now let's go over to Canada, where, gosh, hold on, give it a second. Alright, regulations prohibiting the sale, purchase, or transfer of handguns came into effect on Friday. That's huge. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said the measure builds on earlier efforts banning handgun imports. Well, we know that would be an interesting effort coming in the US if it were ever to happen. Though, let's be real, people would go crazy. It's part of our constitutional right to bear arms, and it's also a contributor to violence. So how is everyone feeling in Canada? Just as with the US, there are a bunch of mixed feelings. And why? Because everyone's different and everyone's got different beliefs. Now, according to reports, the handgun freeze was announced in May alongside proposed legislation that would implement the nation's strongest gun control measures in 40 years as part of the Prime Minister Trudeau's plan to tackle gun violence. What the new law does is stops people from buying, selling, or transferring handguns within Canada and prevents them from bringing newly acquired handguns into the country. Which brings us back to our beloved United States of America. Tiff has the report for you.
Thank you, Daniel. So in some more good news, Magnet, or the Manufacturing Advocacy and Growth Network, has just spent $18 million on a new project aimed at helping small to mid-sized firms thrive by taking better advantage of robotics, computer-driven cutting machines, 3D printers, and other advanced technologies. They create pathways to careers in high-tech manufacturing by training a rising generation of workers who need those jobs. It is also transformed, their headquarters are a modern school that has been transformed for manufacturing and innovation and job readiness, and is a highly visible site. The CEO, Ethan Karp, sees this project as a way to bust the myth that manufacturing is dying in Northeast Ohio and that jobs are drying up. It's always nice to see new projects popping up in areas that need it the most. And now, to talk about our interaction with the world, or at least the OPEC cartel. The Riyadh-led OPEC and an additional group of 10 other oil producers headed by Russia decided to reduce global output next month. which is expected to lead to higher oil prices, which some are saying would help Russia pay for its war in Ukraine. However, Saudi Minister of Foreign Affairs, Prince Faisal bin Farhan, has said the OPEC decision was purely economic and taken unanimously by its member states. The kingdom also denied it was taking sides over Russia's invasion of Western-backed Ukraine, insisting it had maintained a principled position in support of international law. Now, after the announcement, President Biden asserted there will be consequences. Well, one foreign minister of Turkey has stated, "We see that a country has threatened Saudi Arabia, especially recently. This bullying is not correct." So what do you think? Is Saudi Arabia using the gas cuts to enable Russia, or is it normal standard to prepare for the future? Also, is our president being a bully? There were reports he asked for the increase to be delayed a month ahead of time, which brings us right to our midterms. Is our president acting in good faith? You be the judge there. Do some research, look up what's going on. You're on your phone anyways, right? You do not want to go anywhere. When we come back, we will talk about how an artist in Iowa is bringing the love of art to all. We will be right back. Welcome back. Today we want to talk about all the good things and that comes into art as well. A local resident in Iowa, Jill Well, uses a sensitive touch to bring art alive. Jai has the story for you.
Thanks, Tiff. Now we're traveling to areas of the United States where time slows down. At least compared to our busy downtown areas. Now there is an artist named Jill Wells who, according to her website, has firmly saturated herself within art and advocacy work. Wells is well known for her dynamic, colorful, and tactile multimedia works investigating race, history, stereotypes, accessibility, and human experiences. Now, in her practice, Wells engages with individuals of all abilities through various interdisciplinary art workshops and talks to create new modes of working through the arts. Some even say her multimedia works are transforming the art scene through social engagement. And Wells is building a future of advocacy through the arts. Most recently, inside the Torn and Ruth Harkins Center at Drake University, a short trail of paper cutout butterfly traces the curve of a large white ramp that leads to the building's second floor. Now, upon closer inspection, you'd see ridges or dots. What they actually are Braille translations of the Americans with Disabilities Act, of 1990. A civil rights law that prohibited disabled people from being discriminated against and protest their rights.
It's located inside the Human Development Center.
What an incredible idea for art. Wow. Wells
in 1999,
has produced
the founder
numerous
and CEO
worlds of
came
art
to me with
with the hopes of bringing change and awareness. Now, check out this video we found of her giving a TED Talk about the power of public art. Roll the clip.
Thank you for your time today. Once again, my name is Jill Wells, and I am a visual artist who likes to tell stories. This is the first mural I ever created. It's entitled Running Out of Time, and it's located inside a Human Development Center here in Des Moines in Creative Visions. In 1999, the founder and CEO came to me with a photograph. He said, "I'd like to turn this into a mural. Do you think that you could recreate this for me?" I was floored. I'd never been asked to do a public work of art in my community before. I'd never been given a canvas so large before. And the opportunity to create a public work of art that talked about African American history and the legacy of those who came before me made the answer pretty simple. Plus, I was 19 at the time. I had just finished my second year at DMAC, and I was working really hard to get into the fine arts program at Drake University. I took the commission. And as I began to climb up and down scaffolding I had never climbed before and apply fresh coats of ochres and umber to the wall, my community transformed beneath my feet. The steps and sounds of the Isorette dancers, this environment was invigorating, and it was something I had not expected. It was magical, and it was spiritual. I kept asking my mom to come down and take a look at what I was working on, but she was hesitant. She just kept saying, "Jill, I want to wait until it's all done before I come down and take a look." So as the time passed and she stepped through the doors, we stood beneath Martin, Marcus, Malcolm, and Frederick, and a row of strong black men running forward, symbolizing running out of time. Somewhere in the conversation, my mom turned to me and she said, "Jill, I didn't think if I had told you before that you would have been able to finish, but this is where your father passed." Wait, what? You mean where my feet and my hands have been creating was the same site where my father's time ran out? This was almost too much to comprehend. The site where his past became my present and my future all in once. And being a woman of faith, I believe that the Lord had brought me back to such a place to create a positive within my life and our community where something so traumatic, so negative had occurred. I thought, then what's the real story behind how public works of art can create positive change? In order to answer this question, I began to study change, the power of change, the stages of change, and the value and history of storytelling. I've continued to do this, and over the past 18 years, I have worked with hospitals, organizations, businesses, and individuals to create both public and private works of art that support recovery from substance use and addiction, to support both adult and adolescent mental health services, to evoke empathy, to elevate voices, and to transform spaces. My most recent work for Disability Rights Iowa that I created in 2020, entitled Be the Change, sought to do just that. This is the answer that I have found about how public works of art can create positive change. The value of legacy and how we can support one another, in my mind, cannot be measured. But what can be measured is time. And when our time runs out and we transcend, what a better way to support the future than by preserving the past in public works of art. My name is Jill Wells, and I'm a visual artist that likes to tell stories.
Wow. Talk about a woman on a mission. Keep showing the people and the world how to listen. Keep bringing that love and that messaging through the art. You know, people can really connect to that. So hopefully we can all gain a new perspective from this beautiful sharing of her gift. Back to you, Tiff.
Such a beautiful story, and art definitely has the ability to reach so many people. Each person is able to take away their own view on how the art impacts them. Just like Jai said, keep up the great work. It takes one person at a time to make a difference. When we return, Daniel's got all the info on this day in history. And we are back. All kinds of things happened in the past on this day, October 24th. It's time for This Day in History. Daniel?
Thank you, Tiff. I'm super excited, especially about this first one, because I couldn't even imagine what this could have felt like. On October 24th, 1901, a 63-year-old school teacher, 63, keep that in mind while I keep reading this, 63-year-old school teacher named Annie Edson Taylor became the first person to successfully take the plunge over Niagara Falls in a barrel. You heard that right. You know why? She was trying to become famous, and she did it. She chose the right thing to do that. Now, she wasn't the first person to take the plunge, just the first one to do it in a barrel. Still doesn't take away from the epicness. Next up, in 1929, better known as Black Thursday, it was the beginning of the stock market crash and was the day of the largest sell-off of shares in the U.S. history. And it was part of the most devastating stock market crash in the history of the country as well. What a year that was. Next up, and fittingly for current times, in 1945, the United Nations Charter came into effect. According to History.com, the United Nations was born of perceived necessity as a means of better arbitrating international conflict and negotiating peace that was provided for by the old League of Nations. During a conference in 1945, the structure for the United Nations was laid out. It was to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, to establish conditions under which justice and respect for the obligations arising from treaties and other sources of international law can be maintained, and to promote social progress and better standards of life and larger freedom. What do you think about their effectiveness so far? You can let us know, hashtag HYFNTV. On to the next one. In 1962, there was a very real missile crisis involving Soviet ships, the U.S., and Cuba, where Soviet ships approached the U.S. blockade of Cuba. However, stopped short, just short. The missile crisis was a 35-day confrontation between the United States and the Soviet Union, which escalated into an international crisis when American deployments of missiles in Italy and Turkey were matched by Soviet deployments of similar ballistic missiles in Cuba. Despite the short time frame, the Cuban Missile Crisis remains a defining moment in national security and nuclear war preparation. The confrontation is often considered the closest the Cold War came to escalating into a full-scale nuclear war. Now, that was a close one. Let's hope that the war going on now doesn't reach that point. Moving on to the world of art, in 1981, Pablo Picasso's 1937 painting titled Guernica went on display in Madrid, Spain to celebrate the centenary or 100th year of the artist's birth. Now, if you're not familiar with Picasso's work, you definitely have to check it out. This piece specifically was painted after the German bombing of the city with the same name in Spain. The complex painting received mixed reviews when it was shown in the Spanish Republic Pavilion at the World's Fair in Paris, but it became an icon as it traveled the world in the ensuing years. Normally, Picasso's art was not synonymous with politics. He rarely mixed the two, but after the 3-hour-long attack nearly annihilated the city and killed or wounded 1/3 of the population, Picasso had to get to work. That's one way to speak without words right there. Now, hope you've enjoyed today's This Day in History segment. There are histories from all over the place, politics, arts, sciences, everywhere, so many. There is no way we could talk about all of them in 1 hour. You should check them out. Take some time, look it up, look at the past, compare them to where we are now. You can make your own judgments on how far we've come. That's going to do it. Back to you, Tiff.
That's right, Daniel. Thank you. All of you stay in your seats. When we come back, it's Arizona's time.
Thanks for coming back, you guys, and it is time for the Arizona State News. Let's kick it off right away, but first, before we dive into the juicy stuff, we have to tell you, it's our job and our mission to make sure we bring you relevant and up-to-date information. It's free, accessible, right at your fingertips at hyfntv.com or on our Roku channel, that's HYFN TV. But we make it extremely easy for you to find all of our segments anytime you want. Anything we have ever broadcast is all on demand. So check it out, add the HYFN TV channel on your Rokus. Now, first, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with those containers, again, at the Arizona border. Our governor placed shipping containers there to fill a 10-mile gap due to the federal government's lack of action to close the gap. Now, they sent us, Arizona, a letter to remove these containers, and now Governor Ducey is suing the feds. I know we've talked about it, but let's break it down a little more. According to the Sentinel, the strip of land on the border in dispute is known as the Roosevelt Reservation. It was established in a proclamation issued in 1907 by President Theodore Roosevelt as necessary for the public welfare. Now, what Ducey's attorneys are arguing is Roosevelt had no right to declare that area part of federal land without the congressional approval. Therefore, excuse me, therefore, that land should not lie under federal jurisdiction, but rather be the state's to decide what to do with. The lawsuit further argues that Arizona has the right to protect itself against an invasion when the federal government has failed to act, citing Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution. Now, this legal argument has never been tested in court, but constitutional scholars say it is a grossly unconstitutional action, even stating, quote, "The crisis places the state and its citizens in such imminent danger as will not allow delay, etc., meaning the border is such a big issue, especially for our safety reasons as Arizonans. Ducey had to put the containers there due to the federal government's failure to protect the states pursuant to the Constitution. Now, we'll make sure we keep you updated on this as it transpires. What do you got for us next, Daniel?
Alright, where apparently there is still an escapee from a Pima County jail. He's on the run. The U.S. Marshal Service is offering a reward for up to $5,000 for information leading to the arrest of Oscar Alde. Alde was arrested just a day prior to his escape for aggravated assault and unlawful imprisonment, which means he was holding someone against their will. He escaped last week by slipping through a door at the jail while other inmates were being released from custody. If you have any information, make sure you contact the police. Now, moving to the south of this great state, the Girl Scouts of Southern Arizona will be receiving their biggest donation from an individual to date, $1.4 million. You heard that right. Philanthropist Mackenzie Scott has donated $84.5 million to Girl Scouts of the USA and 29 of its local branches, and Arizona was lucky enough to have one of those branches. Funds will go to restore the losses suffered during the pandemic period. If you didn't know, Mackenzie Scott is the former wife of Jeff Bezos. It's nice to see her putting that wealth to good use and giving back to the community. Now let's go back to Jai.
Thank you, Daniel. Now, when we come back, we're going to dive into the elections here in Arizona. You know how that's been an incredibly interesting one to follow, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, peeps! If you're just joining us, you are watching The Update, where we bring you Arizona State news. Now let's check in with Tiff on what's going on. She's going to catch us up on all the election news. And remember, Arizona students and parents, we're all blessed with the right to vote, the privilege. And yes, your vote does matter. That's why we all have to go do our research so we can do our civic duty and actually vote. Know who these candidates are, learn what the important issues are to them, because after whoever gets into office, we're all the ones that have to live with what happens. So, let's all learn what they're advocating about. Let's see what's the deal so we can feel good about our decisions. Now you can also make sure to tune in to our show on demand on hyfntv.com. We are your 2022 election news leaders. That's right, just the facts. Nothing biased. We keep it unbiased so that you get the info and it allows you to make your decision. Now let's go to Tiff. What's the latest?
Thank you, Jai. Yes, Arizona is a battleground state and is being closely watched by the nation and the world. Now, Katie Locke, kind of combined those names there, Kari Lake and Katie Hobbs have made headlines lately, and we're sure you've been seeing the sabotage campaigns from both sides. The most important thing for you to know is do your research. We can tell you Lake is representing the Republican Party and Hobbs is representing the Democrat Party, and they definitely have opposing views. For our full breakdown and for those of all the other candidates, make sure you check out our prior episodes on demand on our website. Now, according to the polls, they show Lake slightly leading Hobbs currently by 1.6%, and that is changing on the daily. Now up for the Senate race, we have Blake Masters representing the Republican Party and incumbent Mark Kelly representing the Democrat Party. Now the position of senator is of huge importance as they are representing us on a national level, letting the federal government know where Arizona stands on key issues. That's why it's important to know how our elected officials are going to vote, and we can tell you that by what's important to them. And they are pretty clear on their websites where they stand on matters, so you can go check that out as well. We can't tell you enough, you have to make sure who you research for. Currently, Kelly is up by just 2 to 4%. The variation comes from different polls, and guess what? Sometimes those are also swayed. Next up, Daniel, what do you have for us regarding the election?
Thank you, Tiff. I just wanted to reiterate what you were saying. People, it is time for you to be in charge of thinking for yourself and even vote for yourself. You may be hearing or reading headlines regarding voting malpractice, issues with mail-in ballots, people watching over drop boxes, colored pen mix-ups. I mean, the media is bombarding you with their version of what's transpiring. If you do want to know what happened to your ballot, you can go to Follow the Ballot. Be confident your vote is counted. Arizona Heritage Center Theater. There is an event called To Follow the Ballot, and this is designed to help explain the process that has been a source of curiosity and confusion for many Arizonans. According to AZ Central, Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer and other Arizona officials will be available to answer questions. The event is scheduled at the Arizona Heritage Center Theater in Tempe. The event is free, but a ticket is required. Parking is also free. According to Don Henninger, a former media executive and co-chair of the network, he stated, and I quote, "We want to restore confidence in our system. We believe the vast majority of Arizonans are aligned with efforts to restore democratic norms and civility among political candidates and their supporters. We truly hope this is a bipartisan effort and can bring calm and relief to Arizonans who are confused by all of these crazy election headlines." Now let's go back to you, Chad.
Thank you, guys. So remember, voting is a privilege. People are literally dying all around the world trying to challenge and change their governments. just so they can vote and not be ruled by domination. Now, it may not seem like a big deal to many of us, we've had it our whole lives, but trust us, it really is. How and who you vote for directly impacts the way, not just Arizona, but the way the nation is ruled. We get the opportunity to select from candidates, and we get to choose who best aligns with our ethics and political values. So don't just go and vote based on who your family likes or, what you may have heard from the media. Let's all do our homework, huh, guys? Now, all right. Moving on from all that, all right? When we come back, we'll get the deets on the weather happening this week so you can plan all your activities and all your fun outfits. We'll be back in just a jiff. Welcome back, everyone. You're watching The Update, and this is the Arizona State News. Find this segment and all of our segments on demand at hyfntv.com. Now let's go to Tiffany, who has our 7-day forecast.
Thank you, Jai. And man, it is beautiful outside. And it is going to stay beautiful, my friends. Today we're looking at a high of around 74 degrees. 74. I mean, literally, when was the last time we could say this throughout the week? It is almost boot and jeans weather. You know, ladies, that's my favorite time. I know you look forward to that. Throughout the week, it's going to remain gorgeous, with the highest temp getting to around the low 80s, and that isn't until Saturday. I mean, we will hit 80 on Wednesday, but that's just barely 80, and it's probably going to feel like the best day ever. So enjoy those cozy nights, cozy up to a little fire, and heck, if there aren't fire restrictions up north, it's a great time to get out and do some camping and enjoy nature. Nothing beats spending some time up there near the Rim Country, getting in some fresh air and checking out the amazing stars in the sky at night. Especially since the nights here in the valley will be in the low to high 50s, it'll definitely be chillier up there. Also, there's no rain or clouds predicted for this week, so get out there and enjoy it to the fullest. Back to you, Jai.
Wow. Thanks, Tiff. Yeah, you're going through that weather, talking about getting into Rim Country. It reminded me of like a few weeks back, we went and catered a film in Heber, Overgard area. And that's definitely Rim Country. It was raining, like pretty much like 2-3 days out of the 4 we were there. You go outside, just like nice and chilly, you get your drink on, you get your blanket. Oh man. Now guys, before we end our show today, we want to make sure we leave you with a smile. Now did you know, wait for it, did you know, in total there are actually 19 different types of smiles? Wow. Or that it's the most easily recognized facial expression. Go figure. It's also a solution to reduce stress. Yes, a stressed mind will absolutely decompress a bit from smiling, letting ourselves slow down, letting the tempo and the breath slow down, and not focusing on those little things, right? There's so many reasons that we should smile. Leaving us, we want to make sure we leave you with a smile. So, check this out. Roll the clip.
Like the flavor.
Count to 10.
Oh, Michael!
It worked! It worked! No! Look!
See what's sure. Happy birthday!
Nope. It's not the right kind. I told you. I know.
Come on!
Right there, hold still. Hold still.
I can't. No. Twist the other way.
What? What's that? Whoa!
Mira para atrás.
All right, look inside.
Well, guys, we hope that made you smile. And hey, we'll take what we can get. Make it a great day, everybody. For the update, I'm Jai.
I'm Tiff.
And I'm Daniel. Remember, for more shows like this, make sure you tune into the update each week for your next generation news. See you next time.